brain cancer for sure.
Well, you got to go one way or the other.
Yeah.
I don't know if AirPods will necessarily be the cause, but my feelings on Apple, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. And I'm waiting for the Instagram to say we can go live. And
Hello,
yes,
everyone.
we can go live. So once again, we are available to everyone on multiple platforms. And that brings us to another Thursday, the last Thursday in March of 2025. Damn it, Larry. It's going so fast. It's like grains of sand slipping through my fingers.
I'm actually looking forward to the next report, the quarterly report, right? The market data is going to be interesting. Super interesting.
Interesting is one word for it. From the way you described our last live stream, it sounds like it could be pretty grim, but I don't know.
That's coming up for everyone. Yeah, just get ready.
Well,
next week. Next week, market report. We'll be going through that probably on our live a bit. And I suspect it's going to be grim. Yes.
All right. Well,
let's get into it.
I'll drink to that. Okay. So the NAR introduces new flexibility for sellers while retaining clear cooperation policy. Oh boy. So for those that are uninitiated like myself, the National Association of Realtors has recently introduced a policy aimed at providing sellers with more control over their property listings while maintaining the integrity of the market. This development could significantly impact how properties are marketed and accessed nationwide. Larry, what brought this on?
So NAR is and you may have already said this, the National Association of Realtors, which technically on some level influences most real estate agents and most real estate boards and the multiple listing service as well, right? And so this is something that just came across our desk a couple of days ago. So this is fresh off the press and super interesting. Different parties involved in the real estate business might have different opinions of this, but I think this is a big thing. And so let's talk about what they talked about. So there was something called Clear Cooperation, which was rolled out in 2020. And basically what Clear Cooperation is basically states that, and here we'll just go through it. The Clear Cooperation policy was put in place to ensure that once a property is publicly marketed, so a sign goes in the yard, et cetera, it must be listed on the multiple service MLS within 1 business day. So basically this prevented people from like putting a sign in the yard and never putting it on the multiple listing service or signing a listing agreement and then sending it out to a select group of individuals, maybe people that were in their personal database. This happens a lot in the commercial space. For example, not to call out commercial brokerages, but it's a little different how the commercial world works. And so some commercial brokerages will only market within their brokerage. Marcus & Millichap, in some cases, especially in the height of the market, they would send it to their database first. And Marcus & Millichap, as an example, has a ton of people in their database. Like they just do, because most people come to M&M. It's one of the biggest, it might be the biggest commercial brokerage. I don't know. It's one of the bigger commercial brokerages in the country. And so they're able to sell property without even going on a multiple listing service. Not that there really is one in the commercial space, but you would think that maybe a Keller Williams would do this, or a Compass, or some of these big companies could do the same thing. But this kind of prevented that, right? And that's called a pocket listing. So now things have been updated a little bit. And so what they proposed is what they call a delayed marketing exempt listing. And this is super interesting. What a delayed marketing exempt listing is the sellers can instruct their agents to delay public marketing of their property through the internet data exchange called the IDX and other syndication platforms for a specific period of time as determined by the local MLS. So basically what they're saying is you can take a listing, and if the seller agrees with this, you can put it on the multiple listing service and not allow it to go to Zillow, or not allow it to go to any other IDX platform. And an IDX platform is basically a syndication platform where it goes out to anybody.
Realtor.com or Redfin or...
Exactly. So basically what we're doing is like kind of retaining that what we used to have as realtors, which is like, hey, you want access to real estate listings, you got to work with a realtor and they give you the listings, right? And then you know about them. Right now, the way it works is pretty much, for the most part, most listings are on Zillow because they have to be. Once they go to the MLS, they go on Zillow.
Right.
That's how it goes. They're syndicated out immediately. Now what the MLS is doing and NAR is doing is saying, hey, you don't have to do that anymore. There's another option. Assuming the seller wants to do this and opts into this, we can just keep it on the MLS as an example, which is pretty interesting. So now what NAR is saying is like, hey, we're not going to tell you how long that needs to be, local MLSs or multiple listing services, local real estate boards. You guys can decide that. So could it be 5 days? Could it be 30 days, 90 days? I don't know where this goes, but nonetheless, this might empower real estate agents a little bit more, which is interesting. And maybe, and I don't know if anybody's saying that, but that was my read of this. I think there's different perspectives on this, right? I don't know. What's your reaction to this, John?
Okay, so I just want to make sure the 4-year-old in the room understands all of this correctly.
Sure.
So it prevents pocket listings. That's the goal here. I guess my immediate question
That's
is...
what Clear Cooperation does.
Okay.
Which was rolled out in 2020. So Clear Cooperation in 2020 was rolled out to prevent this like secretive, like groups of people that get shared listings.
Oh, okay.
So that's still intact, and they're saying, hey, yeah, keep doing that. But now we're going to do something like in between what we basically rolled out, which was you can't just do whatever you want with this because Clear Cooperation is in place. You have to basically bring this property to some sort of market. And before it was like, hey, you got to put it on the MLS and it's got to go everywhere. Now it's like you can put it on the MLS, but it doesn't necessarily need to go everywhere because there's this new thing that they're saying is called a delayed marketing exempt listing. Yeah.
Well, why? Why do you think they did that?
You know, as this is super fresh, and I haven't listened to smarter people that watch this stuff and have opinions on this, smarter people than me on this, because I don't follow, we're selling real estate. There's other people that are super involved in this stuff. And so I've heard some commentary on this. I'm just going to say something crazy that might not make any sense right now. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Like, it's interesting. NAR's got a pretty bad rap lately because of all the litigation and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And realtors are losing. This has been the fact for 25, 30 years. They're losing their power.
Credibility.
Power. Like before Zillow or the Zillows of the world, you needed a realtor like to get information. If you wanted listings, you need to go talk to a realtor. And then we got these like MLSs on the computer, and then it was like, okay, there was no Zillow still, and we could send them to you. And all of a sudden Zillow came around, and now everybody can see all the listings. They can go pop into listings. They can call agents. They can do whatever they want. They don't need this buyer's agent per se.
So agents used to be the gatekeepers, if you will,
of the information. And now with the internet and all the things that come with the internet, such as Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com, whatever, you as the consumer get so much more data. And it's been limited still. The data is somewhat limited still, but for the most part, a buyer can see almost all the active listings that exist. And so now NAR's getting this bad rap. They don't have this great, perspective. Realtors and real estate boards are like questioning, why should we even be a part of NAR, right? Why should we be a part of the National Association of Realtors? Let's just do our own thing. There's all these things that are popping up in this turmoil, and I don't think that's where this heads, but by NAR doing this, I think it like retains it gives back a little bit of power to the realtors. And this is like a flag or a feather in NAR's cap to be like, look at what we can do. We can flex and we can give everybody, the individual realtors, power back. Because there's people saying right now, you could see, like, I think Compass came out and said something. I might be making up the brokerage name, but one of the big brokers said, hey, we're going to do this internal thing where we share listings internally. And we're just going to start doing that. And we're going to create our own little MLS. And we're going to be outside of the world of NAR and the National Association of Realtors. We don't need to be a part of so they're talking about all that type of stuff. Like, hey, how can we do our own thing? Because we don't really like NAR. We don't think they're cool anymore. We don't agree with everything they did, whatever. They got sued. They lost and all these things. They don't some people don't necessarily agree with what happened. So I think this is like a move to give power back to the realtors, and then thus the realtors being like, oh, maybe it's good to be a part of NAR.
So companies,
does that make sense?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm understanding parts of this correctly. So Zillow will have to go to the MLS to get the information now.
So there's an agreement. Yeah, so there's an agreement in place that the MLS syndicates to Zillow. It's already in place, right? That's what happens. All the data is entered into the multiple listing service by the realtor, and then once it's in there, that is syndicated out to all these platforms, right? Zillow included. But now, what they're saying, what the National Association of Realtors is saying is, and that's what most realtors are. They're realtors. That's the definition of a realtor. They belong to the National Association of Realtors by default. Most real estate agents are realtors, and they pay dues to the local and National Association of Realtors by default, and belong. And when you do that, you get access to the MLS. And by default,
you have to be in the NAR to get access to the MLS technically.
And so that's been the argument. Why do we have to be a part of that to get access to this thing? In the commercial world, you don't have to be a part of anything. You can go to CoStar, which is a big platform that you just pay a bunch of money to them, and then they give you access. You don't even need a license in the commercial space, right? You can run around and you can sell commercial real estate all day. And you just pay a bunch of money to have access to CoStar, which is basically the MLS of the multiple of the commercial world, which is owned by one entity, actually the same entity that owns Homes.com, by the way, right? So they're saying, why can't it be more like that? Why can't we just anybody who has a real estate license can just go and get access to the MLS? Why do we have to be a part of the National Association of Realtors? And so again, when they enter that listing into the MLS, now instead of doing the normal thing, or the standard thing that's been basically going on since 2020, which is you put it in, it gets syndicated out to Zillow, period, or Homes.com or IDX platforms or wherever it wants to go, whoever wants to pay for that access to that gets it. Now we can say, no, we don't want it to be syndicated right now. And there's a certain timeline that's going to be agreed to by each individual real estate board. 5 days, 10 days, 100 days. I have no idea. So now it doesn't get syndicated out. And so whoever is working with a realtor will get access to that data. Whoever's not working with a realtor will not get access to that data. Right?
I see.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Good for the consumer.
It's good for the NAR, is what you're saying.
They claim it's good for the consumer. Maybe I'm missing it. I don't know. What could be the benefit?
I don't know. You're the expert, Larry Mastropieri.
This is fresh off the press, man. I'm just sitting here talking shit with you. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So this is interesting. But what I do think is this. So this is supposed to be approved and rolled out. The requirement is that this goes out on September 30th of 2025. So if you're listing your home after that date and your realtor doesn't bring this up as part of the strategy or some part of the strategy, or just to discuss it with you as a seller, that's a red flag right there. So this is interesting. It's just super interesting because from my perspective, you could use this like we use coming soon. So right now, maybe you put it on the what is it called? So maybe the strategy looks like as a seller now after October 1st, we say, hey, for the first 5 days, we're going to do this. We're going to go, or first 3 days, we're going to go with this delayed marketing exempt listing. we'll probably, as a team here, this is just me thinking live, we'll probably do that for every single one of our listings for at least an hour, 24 hours, whatever, as we prep the listing and get it cleaned up and perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we're not showing during that window. Maybe we're just putting it out there. So anybody who has the MLS or is working with a realtor can see this listing. And then we hit the coming soon button, which then basically says, hey, it's coming soon, but not open for showings yet. And then at some point we go active, and then we host our grand open house right after that, right? And so maybe this delayed marketing exempt listing is another step in our strategy overall as a listing agent, just to give us time to prep the listing and let it go out to the first wave of people. But from my perspective, putting it on Zillow or homes.com is the best marketing strategy for a residential property, getting it to everything, right?
Yeah.
People are using Zillow. Sometimes people aren't even using, realtors. And so, but on the buy side. And so like, you want to make sure you as a seller have access to anybody and everybody, right? So, but what I think happens here is now, like I just said, me as a listing agent, I'm going to put it out maybe for a day or two like that, just as we prep the listing. If you're not working with a realtor, you don't get it first. You get it 2 days later now, right? And so now it makes sense to at least have access to a real estate agent who's sending you the hottest listings. And so now it again empowers the realtor. So this delay might be a day or 2 days, this delayed marketing exempt listing. And I think that, whatever, I don't think that has an impact.
That makes much more sense. So in the end, for the consumer, it provides a perk for working with the real estate agent.
Yeah. Yep. Because that's the pitch we give to a lot of our buyers when we're working with them. Like, listen, on Zillow, you don't really have access to expireds, canceled listings. You can't really see that really clean and clearly like we can on our end. It's just not something that's like easily accessible. But for us, we look and see everything that could be on temporarily off market, that type of stuff. We can see all that pretty clearly. And so if you're working with me and I'm doing a good job and I'm working hard for you as a buyer's agent, I'm going to be looking in the same neighborhoods that you told me you want to be in. And I'm going to be looking at those temp off markets, those canceled, those expired listings. And I'm going to be reaching out to those agents or directly to those sellers and just saying, hey, saw you didn't get it done. I actually have somebody that wants to buy in the neighborhood. Can we take a look at this? And maybe it's a fit. And so that's something that's a service that a good real estate agent who's representing a buyer would do. And now on top of that, layer in, hey, there's properties that are in this delayed marketing exempt listing category that you don't even know about and you haven't even seen, and you're never going to see them unless you're working with a realtor or working with me. And I'm going to send those to you as soon as they hit the market. So this is like, just to your point, it gives the realtor more power. And that's my reaction to this. That's why I think it's pretty profound.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, I'm glad we cleared that up.
Now you understand, John?
Now I get it. Thank you, Larry Mastropieri. I feel that much wiser and educated as a potential buyer or seller. All right. Now, this kind of got my attention because I don't know if you remember, but back in the late 70s, they made a Superman movie starring Christopher Reeve as Superman / Clark Kent, and now Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. And if I recall, the way this went, you had Lex Luthor buying up a whole bunch of real estate in like Nevada and in other parts of the Southwest United States. And the reason he was doing that was he got a hold of missiles and was launching them to hit the San Andreas Fault or whichever faults for earthquakes. So that entire part of the country would go underwater, meaning the real estate that he was buying would go up exponentially in value because it would become the new waterfront property of the U.S. See where I'm going with this? So that's right. I'm not going to call Bill Swaim, a Florida investor, Lex Luthor just yet, but this is immediately what came to mind when I read about what he was doing. he's buying up millions of dollars in underwater land, which I don't know how new that idea is, but to me, not having a background in real estate, I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. So he's a Delray Beach investor with claims of ownership over submerged lands, having challenged longstanding assumptions about property rights. How closely have you been following this? Maybe you can give a good explanation on what's going down here.
This story's a little old too, but he's been around doing this forever, and he's still doing this. And a buyer that I was working with brought him up to me the other day, which is why I flagged this as like, hey, let's dig into this, because this buyer that I was working with knew everything about this guy, which was super interesting. And he had his concerns about a property he was buying, or we were working with him on, that overlooks this beautiful bay. And he's like, hey, does this Swaim guy own the underwater land here? And so we dug into it a little bit. But one of the reasons why I thought this was interesting is because there's property that we've sold around his property that he owns here in Boca. And I wanted to pull this up, and we'll pull this up while we're talking, but I wanted to see if it actually is sold, right? So we'll look into this real quick while we're talking. But this guy, he owns property. Let me share my screen while we're talking. He owns property in Boca Raton, in an area that we spend a fair amount of time in. So I just felt this was interesting, and I didn't know he was the guy who owned this until we started digging a little deeper. But here's an example of this developer, Bill, good old Bill, who was asking. This is a little ways back again. He was asking $43 million for this waterfront home property or home sites in this area, which is interesting because, like, if you see it here, look at it on the map. He owns like all this dirt, all this water,
all the water,
all the dirt under the water. And he has all these reasons. He somebody took it used to be above ground. It used to not be underwater, but some other developer stole the dirt from this land and used it somewhere else a long time ago. And so
is that what they claim happened? Or I just figured the rising, sea levels took it under.
I thought that was it too, but let's see. I was reading it somewhere. But this is like a super interesting parcel of land, and it's possibly developable. And so what I was trying to do was just pull up the public record and see if it actually traded or if he still owns it. So but what he's been doing is basically suing people, or so he's buying this land and then people are using the land, arguably. So there's like, he'll buy land or underwater land in front of a condo, or somehow get ownership of this underwater land right in front of a condo and the condo has a dock on it, on the land he owns. And then he'll say, hey,
you're trespassing.
And I want you to pay me for it. So like, I want, 150 grand. So that, I guess one condo paid him $150,000 to have the right. And he still owns the land, but he's giving them the right for 150 grand. I don't know if it's a year or whatever, but he's getting paid. And so one guy was saying that he must be making money doing this, or he wouldn't continue to do this, right? So he's been doing this for a while. I don't know if like he's running out of opportunity, but he's been doing this for a while. Because how much underwater land is there to like actually acquire?
Well,
right?
I was going to say, like, how does one go about purchasing land that's underwater? Is it on the MLS? How would you do that? If it was like, hey, Larry, I know you're an investor. Let's go check out this intracoastal land, just up a ways. How the hell would you even do that?
He's doing deep research and spending a lot of time figuring
no pun intended.
Figuring out chain of title and how we can acquire things and all these very unique things. So here he was suing a telecom company for laying telecom wires or cables across his land for $250 million he wanted. And I think this, Northeast 32nd Street LLC defeats Florida Board of Trustees of Internal Improvement Trust Fund and Department of Environmental Protection attempts to dismiss slander of title lawsuits seeking millions in damages. So he just like goes after these companies trying to get some kind of settlement or something, and then he gives them the right to use the space. I don't even think he actually sells the parcels to these guys. So he's won from time to time. He's also lost a bunch. There's some comments around how he's like been thrown out of court more than once on certain topics. But yeah, so this is the dirt though. This is where it's at. So for anybody who's in Boca Raton, this is the parcel right here.
No,
so this is
Yeah.
Spanish River. John, it's like
walking distance to your house. Right by that.
It's walking distance to your house. And we've worked on some homes or sold homes in the area right around here. I mean, it's just very interesting. And so this whole piece here, he technically owns, or we think he still owns. So we're going to figure that out right now.
See, I just, by not knowing anything else before looking at the article, I just assumed it meant, given, the advances in technology, that they'd be able to build like some above ground support system so you could build homes on it or something like that. That was just my natural assumption. I never even thought about, oh man, that is a next level shakedown. I mean, bravo, sir.
So, I mean, yeah, you think about it, like, I mean, it is what it is. I guess if he has the rights on this thing, he could build on it. I mean, this is probably a huge project. How much dirt you got to put here?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know, but like if you would build maybe like a deck, I mean, figuratively speaking, but some sort of, like concrete structure, support beams that you're the engineer, but something that would support building on top of it. That's what I honestly thought it would have been.
A stilt house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in South Miami.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, the American equivalent of Venice. I don't know.
Yeah. He still owns it. And he paid in 2019, according to public record, $1.648 million. And he was asking $43 million. And I guess he was in the lawsuits trying to get other.
Right. He's trying to get a return on it, I guess.
Yeah. So, but I think he had it listed for a while. Okay. Seller will fill in the property and build a seawall for $46.5 million. Or if you don't want him to do that work, he'll sell it to you for $43 million. Let's see when this was. This was a little ways back. I can't even find the date on this thing. 2022. Yep. Almost 23. So a couple of years ago.
But either way, I mean, it sounds like he's still at it.
He's still like, there's still a sign on the from a broker sign on the property. At least last I drove by.
And then what? It's like is it hovering? Is it floating on the water? Is it like a big buoy and it has for sale on it?
Yeah, that actually would be a great idea, John. Yeah, I haven't found it on the MLS, but that's the scoop there. So,
well, then he's missing out.
Yeah, so super interesting project that could be developed one day, right? So
that's crazy. I just, again, I don't understand how land like this, how you would come by it. That, if I was looking into investing in some submerged property, where would I go do this?
Yeah.
Only in America, man.
This is the free state.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. Well, let's keep it moving here. And as we've done many times, we like talking about Brightline. And evidently, there's still more going on with that. Brightline's commuter rail plans gaining momentum. Is South Florida finally catching up with big city transit? Well, I don't know if that's the case, but evidently, you've got negotiations in Miami-Dade County for a commuter rail project nearing completion. I honestly thought everything was already done.
This is for like local commuter. There's a little different. Mm-hmm.
I see. Well, it would make sense that they try to do something like that because I don't know if there's enough people that constantly want to make that trip, from Miami, Fort Lauderdale to, Boca, West Palm, etc.
I was sitting at, the train tracks in West Boca today, which is not where the Brightline rides, right? That's where the Tri-Rail, and Amtrak, right?
Oh yeah.
So I got stuck there. The gates came down, and I'm watching the Amtrak go by, and I'm like, these are the ugliest trains ever.
They've been around forever.
They're gross. And then I was like, just thinking about this. I'm like, this is super interesting. Brightline is really, really way higher class than these Amtrak.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they just from that perspective, if they compete with Tri-Rail or Amtrak, it's gonna people are gonna want to ride Brightline. I'm sure it's gonna be more expensive.
I was gonna say I see I see the Tri-Roy ones a lot, and that's kind of my first thought is they look very dated, to put it nicely.
Totally. Yeah.
So I mean that would be great, I guess, to have commuter rail initiatives for the local traffic. I hope this was part of their, this was always part of the end game for them, just to make all of this make more sense financially in terms of, turning a profit. Because I assume they've been hemorrhaging money. I mean, it's great. I mean, we've bragged about how good it is before. I mean, yeah, it's great when, you can go from Miami to Orlando in a couple hours and not have to worry about driving yourself or flying.
There's a buyer I'm working with right now that he's buying in Boca, East Boca, close to the Brightline, because he commutes to Miami every day or 4 days.
He does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's more. I mean, it's effective enough for him to do that.
They seem like that's what they do. That's their model. These buyers. She works from home. He commutes into Miami. He's in finance, and that's where he spends his time. And he does 4 days a week there, and Friday he works from home. And so not bad. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I mean, or somebody who has to make the trip to Orlando once a week for work or something like that. I mean, I get it. It makes sense. I don't know how many people have to do it in order to make it feasible.
Yeah. In fact, there's another buyer that we're working with that same thing. He's now buying a house in Boca because he's kind of overdoing the Orlando to Boca trek on the Brightline, but he'll come down on the Brightline and then he'll go stay at his house for a night or 2 nights and then Brightline back to his house in Orlando where his family lives. Wild.
But yeah, I've said that. I know that's the deal with, my sister and her family going to visit my parents in West Palm Beach now because she's a Disney fanatic for some reason. And I'm sure that's probably the plan in the very near future. The next time they come down is just, go there, take the Brightline up to Orlando for the day, come back that evening. It makes sense.
That's so I have some friends from out of the area. The same thing. They're like, hey, we're going to go to wherever a park. They're like, hey, we'll stay at your house. And then we'll just jump on the Brightline and go to check it out for a day or two or whatever. So that's a thing. But back to this and the commuter rail. It looks like Palm Beach County is in the preliminary stages of its commuter rail expansion plan, envisioning an extension of service approximately 45 miles north from Broward County. The plan includes introducing up to 6 stations between Boca and West Palm Beach and Jupiter. Formal negotiations are expected to commence following the completion of agreements in Miami-Dade and Broward County. And so those are in progress right now. But this is exciting. This is super exciting. More public transportation is great for the area.
And I'm glad you brought up Jupiter because that is the one place that I had been wondering about with a lot of this. Because, when I see it come to a place like Boca, I'm like, I just assume it's like, the influence to get a station there, whatever. But I know Jupiter's got a whole lot of influence too. And I'm like, how the heck did we decide that we only had them in Boca and West Palm and yet not on the other side of Palm Beach County? I mean, it seemed like a natural fit for me.
Yeah, you're right. Like Jupiter's a great location that hasn't been really serviced. So we have.
I thought that was weird. Yeah.
That we're like, hey, take the Brightline, but they got to drive to West Palm, take the Brightline, and then they're already in West Palm and they drove. Why not just drive the rest of the way to Boca? Right. Yeah. For anything that's right next to the Brightline, it's super efficient. Like we're right next to the Brightline in Boca. You jump on that Brightline and then you head to West Palm, you head to Orlando, head to Aventura, Miami, Fort Lauderdale. Like it's really efficient for anything that's adjacent if you're going. But even for me, I'll go to Miami and I'll try to go to Miami Hospital. It's not that far away, but it's still kind of a little bit of a pain in the butt. But it was pretty efficient to go to a basketball game from the Boca Brightline.
Yeah. Last time I was down there, man, it was a night of a heat game and I had no idea because for one, the 6 o'clock train was already sold out and I was looking at it early that morning. And then, I came back with all of them and I was like, all right. I was like, well, they got a nice thing set up.
Yeah. So I think, the Brightline's great. It's a great, and it's just because it's primarily because it's so easy. Cause I'm almost walking distance from it. or at least 2 seconds drive from it. So
no, it's
so that's
great.
great. You were making a comment about Brightline's financial acumen or whatever.
Right.
A comment on it here. It says Brightline has demonstrated financial acumen by by completing the remarketing of $985 million in Series 2024A bonds on February 14th, 2025, redesignating them as Series 2025A bonds. This strategic move reflects the company's commitment to securing the necessary capital to advance its commuter rail project. Additionally, Brightline intends to monetize future access payments from participating counties through securitization transactions, ensuring a steady flow of funds as the project progresses. So that's kind of interesting. So it seems like they got their act together on some level. They may not be making a profit. I don't know. I haven't looked at any of that, but like you were suggesting, but it seems like they're not in trouble. So
no, I mean, they're playing the long game here, considering that you got it in Orlando now. They're going to go to Tampa. I mean, there are times I have friends in Tampa, and I've thought about going to visit. I'm lazy, and I don't feel like flying there either. So, I mean, to get up in the morning and then go, I mean, it's great. I mean, it seems like a natural fit. So yeah, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're thinking, in terms of getting it done long term. We'll see.
Yeah, this is good. I hope they get to Tampa, Jacksonville, right? This is positive.
Yeah, right.
But speaking of West Palm, let's jump to the one I want to talk about here. Major changes are coming to downtown West Palm Beach's City Place.
Ah, that's right. City Place 2.0.
Stephen
Ross doing work yet again.
John, what's your comments on this?
I mean, like I said, especially when I first came down here and I was in West Palm Beach, I mean, going to City Place, I was like, wow, it's really nice. It's very modern. It represents everything I would imagine seeing in a place like West Palm Beach. So I totally understand why they would want to continue to build on that. As I feel like sort of, and you've been to downtown West Palm. I feel like it's almost kind of like this revitalization that's sort of just like kind of growing like over everything else. It's kind of like replacing the old with everything that looks like City Place and stuff like that. I don't know what you call the architectural style there, but I feel like it has a distinct look to it.
This is great here. I was just reading this.
I've been to Italy.
Italy. Yeah. Developer Stephen Ross, the chairman of Related Ross and owner of the Miami Dolphins, has big plans to turn West Palm Beach into what he calls the most important county in the United States.
He's ambitious, man. He's talking big game.
That's a big statement. It's a big statement. I love it. And then it says, this is great, to your point, from luxury office towers to massive Italy Italian market, Ross is betting big on this next phase. But will these changes live up to the expectations? That's the question. So,
when you couple that with the Vanderbilt campus that isn't that far from there, and, whoever Doge ends up selling the
that could be a huge redevelopment play. Yeah,
right, because you got one just north of that too, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems like everything is very much primed to just have a huge makeover, which is exciting.
So somebody, a buyer reached out from our email blast this past week because we put out an article or whatever, a blog on this topic exactly, right? Which is why I mentioned you were looking at this closely.
Well, I was on it.
You were on it, baby. So he reached out and he was like, hey, should I be buying in downtown West Palm Beach? Should I buy condos, et cetera? And so we were just talking about this. And so there's more and more hype around this as time goes on. But we started looking at the condos, and I can show you like condo. We'll pull it up here in a second. And back to the condo disaster in South Florida. We were talking about this, and I think there's probably an opportunity. I don't know if it's right now, but as if the condo market continues to soften in that area, it could be pretty interesting. There could be an opportunity to pick up condos in that marketplace, betting on obviously the execution of our boy Ross. So
But again, and with the Vanderbilt campus, which seems to be all but a done deal. I mean, I think it is done. It's going to take a few years. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
So what I told him was, I think if you're trying to buy a condo for investment in downtown West Palm, I think there's relatively low downside risk, and long term, it probably all works out. It's just a matter of when, right?
Right.
Even if you pay a price today and maybe the condo market declines, when, in 2030, when Vandy's done, when Doge's redevelopment project gets done, when this is all completed and all the other, 10, 15 other projects that we know about in that area are done, it's going to be all good. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the list of some of the other things here. I'm like, oh, a larger Publix grocery store, because, when I think about Publix, I'm like, there just aren't enough Publix around South Florida. I mean,
this is the one.
It's like we need a bigger one.
This is the one in City Place, right? So,
yeah. Oh, yeah, there's one City Place. Yeah.
I think that's what they're referencing.
Okay.
It is.
I just laugh when I see Publix in general. It's like, oh, we got to have another Publix.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, having a big grocer there is kind of interesting because it makes everything so much more walkable too, right?
Oh yeah,
so I get that because I own apartment buildings just north of there in not the City Place area, but just on the north side, and it's walkable from our apartments. And I've walked there, and yeah, it's a nice place, but it's not as, it doesn't serve all your needs. But that's great. I mean, I think that would be helpful, but it's the least exciting thing probably on this list. What do they talk about? Cleveland. They're talking about Cleveland Clinic here. What does it say? With 4,700 employees expected to work in these buildings, Ross hopes to create a true live, work, play environment. Tenants like Cleveland Clinic, Florida, and legal giant Schutz and Bowen. Who knows?
Bowen.
Bowen are already on board with 60% of the space pre-leased. 60% of the space pre-leased. If that doesn't suggest confidence in the market, I don't know what does, right? So, but office space is just one piece of the puzzle. That's interesting, right?
Yeah. I mean, it all sounds great. It sounds like Ross and his people have sold the dream, as you've said, and put a nice bow on it and the whole 9 yards. And it looks like this could be something really special. But again, I mean, City Place is nice as is. It's not like, I mean, it was literally like one of the first places I went to when I came to West Palm Beach. Like met up with an old friend. They're like, oh yeah, let's go to City Place. Like, oh, it's like, it was nice. And they were doing a lot of work on it then. And that was like 5 years ago.
This is interesting. Italy and the rise of culinary tourism. The $45 million project will cover 30,000 square feet of interior space with additional outdoor seating. City officials are betting that Italy will draw over 1 million visitors annually, boosting foot traffic and bringing more tourism dollars downtown. That's a big space. I don't know if I've been to the New York Italy, but it sounds exciting.
There was one not that far from my parents, and I've been there. The pizza was good. Service was not, but that's why the pizza, I was like, all right, well, you made up for it because the pizza was very good. A culinary visitor. I am such a culinary visitor, culinary tourist, whatever you want to say. Yeah, that is so me.
So this is interesting. Banyan and Rosemary Ave is where this Publix could sit, right?
That's what I'm saying. It's right by the campus then. I mean, Banyan,
Hold on. Let's take a look at that real quick.
Because, which I'm trying to think.
I'm intrigued because my property is right off, or some of our buildings are right off that area. So let's see. Okay. So Banyan and Rosemary. Got it. So there's a vacant parcel there, right on that corner, right? I don't know if this is where it goes. Does it say at the corner of Banyan and Rosemary Ave? My guess is it's not on the northwest corner. It's probably not on the northeast.
All those open spots. I mean, I know the property.
This is the
Google
police
Maps can change, but
yeah, this is the police.
Well,
this is the police station, I think.
Well, I mean, you're right across from City Hall on the other side there.
Yeah. So logically, this is the only place to put it.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing? So this is interesting. So that's not, I mean, City Place, by the way, is like, where's the public?
We're right down the street from the Doge place, and you're a couple blocks north from the Vanderbilt campus. I mean, everything there is ripe for redevelopment.
Yeah. So the Publix is right here right now. There's another Publix. Why do I think there's
a Publix on like every other corner?
That's great. Yeah, but look at this. I don't see a Publix anywhere else on here.
It's there. Trust me, it's there.
They're hiding in plain sight. I don't know. That feels far away. I feel like there's one closer. Anyway, either way, that's super interesting that they might use this parcel for that. I would guess they go taller though with that, right?
Do I not?
If you asked me, what would you do with that parcel? You'd probably build Publix on the first floor, and then you have apartment for office over it, all over it. You right? So, or some kind of all retail on the first floor, and then something, right? So, and you got Clematis parking right here. So there's some efficiencies if people are actually driving to pick up stuff. But mostly this will be super walkable. I mean, you have a ton of high-rise buildings here with resi in it. So, yeah. But let me share. I'll share this in a second. We can pop back in. So here we go. Share my screen somehow. There you go, John. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Look at that. But what we were talking about is just looking at these days on market for these condos. So we were just looking at downtown condos in West Palm.
Right.
Under 600 grand for 2 bedrooms and 1 bath plus. And what's on the market? There's 40 active condos on the market in this area under 600 grand. So there's some inventory there, right? If you just look at these days on market, 486, this guy's 6. I'm just going to call it the big ones to be more dramatic. 346, 175, 91, 69, 231, 246, 179, 231, 139, 128, 78. So like a lot of this stuff, 105, 175, like is just sitting, 205. Look, nothing. I mean, big numbers.
Most of them are in triple digits.
Yeah, if you did the average of this, it would be pretty high from my perspective. So the days on market are probably up there, which is just suggesting that there's probably room to negotiate or prices to come down here. So there's probably a little bit of wiggle room there on that, which is what we went through when we were talking about, hey, is this a good investment opportunity as we know how much is going to happen or plan to happen up in the West Palm market. So
well, it sounds like yes, but it just, as you were saying, I mean, just patient. Like how quickly do you expect to return?
Here's what I told him. I said, in 2019, not pulling the trigger cost you a lot of money as an investor, right? And just like being too conservative, not sure what you want to do. And it cost me money. I didn't buy as much as I should have in that moment. But now I think it's the opposite. Being patient probably saves you money, So that's a thing. I think you watch this for a little bit here and see where this goes. Cause I don't think 6 months from now, you're gonna be like, oh shoot, property values are up 20%. I don't think that's a thing. Right. So how do you feel, John?
Just big changes are coming. It's so funny because, so often we've talked about places like Pompano that really are coming up in a hurry. But man, it really, at the end of the day, the elephant in the room, as far as I'm concerned, is West Palm Beach in terms of its growth. I mean, you see it every time you go by there. Yeah. So, I mean, it makes sense.
On the same vein, we could talk about topic 6, which was Palm Beach County plans to overhaul hotel to offer affordable housing to seniors and veterans.
Yes.
Interesting.
What are we talking? Are we talking about the breakers?
I think this is different.
Oh, so they're doing that at a lot of places. Oh, a former La Quinta Inn, turning it into affordable housing for seniors and veterans. That's nice. It's a bold move that could provide stability to some of the community's most vulnerable residents, but not everyone's on board. While supporters call it a necessary lifeline, others worry about how it might impact nearby neighborhoods. Isn't that always the complaint? So, will this transformation be successful? Let's dive into the details.
So, I want to find the location. It's 5981 La Quinta Inn Boulevard. See where this is, and
so they got a La Quinta Inn on La Quinta Inn Boulevard.
I think so. No, this is on Okeechobee.
Okay, I think I know where that is.
It's it's an efficient location, I think, to do this. If you ask me, so I'm kind of like this could work. John, why am I having such a hard time presenting my screen?
Here,
for me.
Hold on, I got you.
Tech guy. All right. Yeah, so it's right here on the map. So if you just look at where West Palm and downtown is, and where this is, I mean, it's pretty efficient right off the turnpike, which is expected for these types of hotels anyway.
Yeah.
Right? They're meant for this type of thing. So, and I guess if this is, I can see how this makes sense. It's just a efficient location for anybody who needs, I don't know, maybe they need work, or they need efficient transportation to certain things, doctors, whatever. It's not like they're putting this in like downtown.
Well, so. Exactly. I mean, it's a centralized location that's very accessible to other outlets for, Palm Beach County and beyond. So, yeah, I mean, but again, I'm still kind of smirking at not everybody's on board with this. Again, it's like, what's the argument here? It's going to hurt traffic? Because I feel like that's the excuse for everything here. It's like, yeah, but God, it's gonna be bad for traffic. It's sort of like the equivalent of like middle-aged dads saying, but boy, we really needed the rain. So like anytime it rains, like, oh, we needed the rain.
We really needed that rain. Yeah. Well, I think here it's just like going through this. This isn't a traditional homeless shelter. Instead, it's a space offering long-term and stable housing. So, this is definitely, it's a permanent supportive housing for seniors and veterans at risk of losing their homes. So these are people that are,
I mean, people complain all the time, deservedly, that's like, hey, why aren't we doing more to take care of our veterans and senior citizens? Like, well, it sounds like they're trying to.
Yeah, and in here in this plan, they say residents will have access to comprehensive support services, including case management, employment assistance, mental health care, and daily meals. The rooms similar to an efficiency apartments will feature essential amenities like refrigerators and microwaves. If you ask me, this converting a hotel that's probably not performing well or needs a renovation anyway is probably one of the better ideas than building a new building, and the location is probably one of the better locations you could choose to do this in, right? Mm-hmm. Just from where else are you going to put these? And I get it's homeless people, and most people don't want homeless people next door to them. So, but this is kind of like in more of a commercial setting, right?
Yeah,
I get there's some resi behind it. And,
there is, and it's a rough area. I know exactly where that is.
So from my perspective, it's kind of a good option, because again, do you really need do you need like a 1-bedroom unit? Do you really need like a bunch of square feet for this type of thing? No, probably not. These are efficient. They're small, they're efficiency style, and they'll probably have little refrigerators and kitchens, and everything will be in kind of one space. And it will give people a roof over their head, right? And that's great. Yeah, I think this is good. Oh, here it says residents of Century Village in nearby 55 and up community voiced their concerns at a recent public hearing. Many fear the project will negatively impact property values and increase crime, despite assurance from county leaders. So
I can tell you right now that there's stuff that goes on. Like if you go a couple blocks off the path right there, that's kind of a rough area anyway. Now we're gonna ruin it. Yeah,
So this is great too. Some labeled the initiative as turning their neighborhood into a dumping ground for the unhoused. We've sold condos here. Our team sells condos in this community. We've helped clients, long-term clients, buy a number of these in Century Village. I mean, to your point, John, it's like not to.
No, it's like I know exactly where that is. I'm like that. Yeah, I've been by
it's there. Like, listen, like this is I get it. Whatever. Yeah,
we're trying to class up the joint. You want to do this? Like, just people are the Come on.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Anyway, so we going to discuss Dania Beach, or excuse me, I never can pronounce that word right. Dania.
Beach.
I always get it. I always say Dania. It's like one of those things.
Get your act together.
I know. You believe me. It's like, to scream that you're not from here because I said it to someone and they just stared at me. It was like, oh, okay. So where are you from originally?
This is the Dania Beach 380 residences you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a 17-story waterfront development.
Let's talk about it. Let's get into
it. The Aileron Residences, a soaring 17-story condo development bringing 380 units to 90 North Bryan Road. With its aviation-inspired name and high-end amenities, Aileron aims to take waterfront living to new heights, no pun intended. But will it succeed in putting Dania Beach on the luxury real estate map? Larry, I'm going to guess the answer is no, but you got to start somewhere.
I mean, oh man, I wanted to show you where this is. So, I mean, this is pretty epic. Look at this.
It looks nice, yeah.
So this is just like this is similar to the Pompano Beach move, where it's just like, hey, somebody needs to make a bet here, see if there's healthy demand, and if there is, all of a sudden you're going to start seeing related Ross all over this thing, right? Mm-hmm. But what's interesting is this thing's like not on the beach or on the intercoastal, right?
No, but it's on a canal, and a wide canal at that.
A wide canal.
I mean, I don't even know how wide
boats
it is
there. Let's see how navigable this is. Okay, I get it.
Does it have direct access? Okay.
Yeah, but there's probably like these are fixed bridges.
Yeah.
So this is like so.
Well, you can't put your yacht down there. I'm sorry.
You're not putting your yacht there. You got a bunch of fixed bridges. It looks like pretty slow fixed bridges, not like really amazing ones. And this is probably a 30-minute run to the intercoastal, even if. So it's just south of the Fort Lauderdale Airport, right? Mm-hmm. So this is kind of cool.
Yeah. Let's see. How long does it take before they actually break ground?
Well, it says, and it's no coincidence with Spirit Airlines headquarters right next door, Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, just 6 minutes away. Development embraces its proximity to the aviation industry.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense.
Yeah. Let's see. It's designed to offer more than just a place to live. Its developers are betting big on luxury experiences, starting with a 5,000 square foot India-inspired spa. That sounds pretty sweet. Residents will also have access to 2 pools, one sunny and one shaded, catering to different preferences throughout the day. It also is a co-working area. So this is a very interesting. I just think the location is interesting to me. Like, I get it. Like, look, there's hotels here. There's other, like, hold on.
You're just looking at the water.
Let's just just look. Hold on. What's around you?
Dirt.
But this is where it's possibly going. There's other development happening here, right? Mm-hmm. And there's other new buildings going up, but there's still like dusky boats, and so it's just an interesting location to me to choose this. But there's also a lot of business here, right? right in this area that's kind of adjacent to the airport. So, yeah, because again, if you did like these are apartments, Gulfstream and Dania Beach apartments. Like this isn't like a super high income area yet. Do they talk about what they're going to sell these things for? I don't see it in here.
I missed it.
Yep, it's not there. Okay. So,
hell, they probably don't even know yet.
And 17 stories. I mean, there's some other tall stuff here, but that's a pretty big.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, it says additionally, the reliance on aviation branding and proximity to Spirit Airlines could be a double-edged sword. While it offers convenience for frequent flyers, some buyers may hesitate over potential noise concerns. That's what I was going to comment on, noise concerns. And like depending on the price you're proposing here for this building, I mean, a well-to-do buyer could go 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and have other options, right?
Yeah. But so I think, do your other buyers have a boat?
Yeah, but again, I just like this whole boat thing.
I know. Well, it's like I see it, and I'm kind of like, because even on the sketches of it, and they have boats on the little dock right there, and like,
yeah, it's I don't know how many people are going to utilize that so much, right? So, and it's not most people that are going to be utilizing that because they don't have a dock or a slip for every single owner, right? It's going to be like hey, you can use it if you pay for it, you rent it, or you rent the slip, or you buy the deed.
It'll end up being people who don't even live there to pay for the.
Yeah, but again, you got to have a very specific boat to use. It's like, yeah, I don't know. So obviously, there's like a marina here, and so there's obviously things going on, but as you can see, like they don't have docks here, so like these marina, like Dusky Marina or Marine, it's a boat dealer. Like there's no docks here for a reason. So I don't think the boat thing is like a huge selling point. Here's a marina.
Right.
But again, you have, I don't know how tall this bridge is. It's probably not super tall, but it probably works. So, and then you got to go over these two. And then this is where you start to get the real stuff, right? Yeah. Because now you have direct access, uninterrupted, no bridges. So, this bridge is probably 9 feet tall. The Brightline, Brightline. So, yeah, at high tide. So anyway, we'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, I feel like we've covered a lot of important issues here, and wrapping it up with Dania Beach. Yeah, that was good. All right. For Larry Mastropieri, broker, owner of the Mastropieri Group, I'm John Laws of Discover South Florida. Thank you, everyone, for tuned in, and we'll see you on the next one.